the high school football regular season because we have gotten to the non-region week. Hello again. This is the Under the Lights High School Football Podcast. I'm Kyle Parmley, joined by Gary Lloyd. Gary, we had a big week of region play last week. We get a little bit of a breather this week, so to speak. So, how did you feel about what you saw last week?
Uh, felt good. Felt like, one of those important weeks where, maybe some teams start to separate a little bit, and we've got some teams down in a hole that are really going to have to find themselves after this bye week for some, non-region week for others, and see if they can, make a little noise come October. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, let's hit the big game from last week. I was at the Hoover Met, got to witness Hewitt-Trussville really take care of Hoover 28-7. That's the Huskies' fifth win all time over Hoover. Only the second time they've ever won at the Met. Just a huge win for Hewitt-Trussville, and it was a really interesting game because both teams first quarter both defenses were playing great ball, and the game turned in the second quarter. Hoover gets down inside the 1 yard line. Hewitt-Trussville's defense steps up with a goal line stand. And then a few plays later, with Hewitt on offense, Hoover gets pegged with a sideline interference penalty. I don't know the last time I've seen one of those. Wasn't in the morning. It was a straight up penalty. I guess somebody got bumped into on the sideline. That gave Hewitt-Trussville new life. They were backed up inside their 1 yard line. And then that turned into a 99-yard touchdown drive. The game kind of momentum flipped from there. And Hewitt-Trussville took care of business. Peyton Floyd, the Huskies quarterback, gets the big win on his 18th birthday. Pretty cool stuff there. But Gary, the Huskies, I know Hoover isn't playing to the level that we've gotten used to seeing them play at, but that's a big win for them.
I mean, like on paper, like we talked about it last week, we almost, pretty much kind of predicted this. It was more of a, I don't think it necessarily gets in the players' heads, the record against Hoover. I think it's just the next opponent, but I think that does more for your mental side of things than anything. Just because, talent wise right now, Hewitt is superior to Hoover right now. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. We're not used to saying that. Not just about Hewitt compared to Hoover, but a lot of teams compared to Hoover. They're just a little down offensively right now, trying to find themselves. And, Hewitt steps up big. The offense did enough that it needed to do to stay out in front. And that Hewitt-Trussville defense has just been kind of surging lately, just allowing a touchdown a game its last three games, and really, really rounding into form. And, they get a homecoming non-region game this week, but it'll really ramp up for the Huskies the next few weeks. And for Hoover, just another tough offensive output, and it looks like they're going to be battling for that fourth spot out of Region 3. So that'll be something really, really interesting to watch as we move forward. Do they get in a battle with Tuscaloosa County? Chelsea's right there with a win, and they, a lot of their back half of the region schedule is at home. I think 3 of their 4 region games left are in their place. So Hoover finds itself in uncharted waters. So the Bucks have really got to find themselves if they want to play in November.
Yeah, you're right there. One of the things that impressed me the most, you mentioned Hewitt's defense, and they played really well Friday night. But also the offense, when it comes to like beating one of these perceived giants, with Alabama, you always hear the Stephen Garcia game where a guy just plays out of his mind, has the game of his life. As you can see in Gary's screen, he's really excited about the Crimson Tide this year. But I think what is most impressive to me about that game is that Hewitt-Trussville didn't need that. Like, if you look at their offensive stats, they really weren't flashy. They weren't that impressive. Peyton Floyd scored 3 touchdowns on the ground, but he only rushed for 60 some odd yards. So that was really impressive that Hewitt-Trussville just did what they needed to do to control the ball game and win. It wasn't like they ran up and down the field all night in some aberration. So huge win there for the Huskies. Gary, like you mentioned, after this upcoming week, they've got Thompson and Vestavia. So plenty of important things still on the line. But speaking of this game, let's bring in our guest this week. We are going to sit down with quarterback Peyton Floyd, head coach Josh Floyd. Let's hear from them now. All right, we're joined now by Hewitt-Trussville quarterback Peyton Floyd. Peyton and the Huskies are coming off a big 28-7 win over Hoover last Friday night. Peyton, just kind of, you've had a couple days to enjoy the win. What's it been like, getting that win over Hoover, kind of getting that big monkey off your back, so to speak?
It was a big win, obviously, especially because, it was at the Met too. The last few years we've had some tough ones against Hoover, even some like last second ones. So, to beat them at their place was a big one for sure.
Yeah, Gary, you should have been there Friday night. There were cupcakes for everybody after the game. It was Peyton's 18th birthday. Peyton, how long have you known that senior year you were going to be playing on your birthday?
Probably like 6th or 7th grade. I was just randomly looking at it one time. I remember when I realized my senior year was on a Friday, so I figured I had a game. So, and then I realized it was at Hoover 2 years ago. I thought that was pretty cool. So,
Wow. What flavor cupcake?
I got chocolate.
That's what I like to hear.
Well, definitely, during the post game interview, he got a few of those shoved in his face as well. So
I did.
Well, tell me about the team's mindset. Heading into that game, it's a big opponent, it's a big game. Just kind of where's this team at, especially heading into that game. A couple slow games to start off, but it seems like you guys are really starting to pick it up and play well.
I feel like we've really came well. Made some few changes on both sides of the ball. Got some guys back too. So we just keep getting better each and every week. The goal was kind of, just try to be tough, physical, more physical and tough than Hoover. Because, like, in the big games, that's what you got to do, to win the games. I think that we did that last Friday.
What's it like for you, like stepping away from Hoover? What's it like being a coach's son? Like, is it harder on you? Is it easier? Are you just chilling at the house on the weekend watching film? What are you doing?
I'd say it's easy, I guess, because like instead of having to call your coach when you're at home watching film or something, I can just go downstairs and talk to him for a second. So, I guess from that aspect, we're talking about the game a lot all weekend, so I guess it's an advantage, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about this offense before the season started. You guys had so many guys back, so much experience returning. Where do you see that kind of pay the most dividends for you guys, having almost a full year at least under your belt playing with a lot of these guys?
I'd say I really never knew how much experience really helps you, I guess, until this year. When we were young last year, I didn't know if it was really going to matter, but now looking back on it, we've been in the big games, we've been in the big moments. And so we know what it took all off season, to get to where we can win these big games. And I think we're kind of seeing the experience and everything over the last few years really come to tuition today.
A game like this week, we've all seen some of the struggles that Huffman has, and whether Huffman's having struggles or not, it's a distraction kind of week with homecoming and all of that. How do you approach a week like that where it's non-region, it's homecoming, all that? How do you kind of stay focused and make sure y'all are doing what you need to do?
We've kind of just talked about, we got to keep getting better each and every day at practice. Just because the team we're playing doesn't have the best record, I guess, we still know in the long run we need to keep getting better each and every week, and so we need to keep getting better every day at practice this week.
Are you in the homecoming parade this week?
I think our football team's in the float. I think so.
Okay, what are y'all doing? Throwing candy? What's the deal?
I guess we'll just throw some candy to some kids.
Fun.
Peyton, long term, what are the goals for this team? I mean, like you guys have stepped up and notched a few big region wins. I know in the afterglow of that win Friday night, it's a lot of fun. But how do you guys sustain that momentum? What is this team capable of as we kind of get into the second half of the season?
Our goal is definitely to win the state championship. Trussville's never done that. So, especially our senior class, that's what we've talked about. We want to be the first team to win a state championship. But how do we do that? I guess we just got to keep getting better each and every day. I guess, whether that's at practice, a film session, workout, whatever it is, and just kind of, I guess that's really what it is. Just try to get better each day.
I want to ask one other personal kind of thing. So, you're a senior quarterback, Parker, sophomore linebacker, I guess, right now. And then what grade is Jack in?
Jackson, 7th grade. So
who's the best athlete out of the three?
Me right now. But they've been working hard though, for real.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've seen some of Jack's highlights.
Yeah.
In 7th grade, he looks
he's
pretty
been
good.
No, they've been doing really good. Him and his teammates have been doing really good. But he's got to keep working. He's got a long way still.
Okay, you're setting the bar for him. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll put some numbers on the board for him to chase after in the future, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Peyton, before you go, I want you to tell me something about this defense. After the first game, you guys play Central, and it's easy to kind of be down on those guys. But, I mean, we can be honest, like Central's one of the best teams in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough matchup for anybody, especially in game one. But you fast forward a few weeks, I mean, they dominated the game on Friday night against Hoover. So you go against them in practice every day. How are those guys doing and progressing?
There's a few younger guys on defense, but I keep seeing them get better each and every day. So Coach Tosman is doing a really good job on that side. We got guys like Riggs Dunn that's played a lot. And, we made a few changes, obviously. And, we got one guy that's really good back last week. So I think those kind of, getting a few players back, making a few changes, and, their confidence keeps going up each and every week. And they just did a really good job Friday.
Good deal.
I've got one. Kyle, I got one more that I
here.
just kind of wanted to ask. Like you mentioned earlier about knowing your senior year birthday would be on a Friday night. Mm-hmm. So you've looked ahead from the past. Now I kind of want you to look from now back to the past a little bit. When y'all moved here from Arkansas, I guess you would have been what, 7, 8, 9 years old, something like
probably
that.
Been like 8 or 9, probably.
Okay, so those first early years, your dad back-to-back 11-1 seasons. Was there ever a moment when you're in that 8, 9, 10-year-old range where you said, I want to lead this program? Like, was there a moment where you were like, this is awesome and I want to be a part of this?
For sure. Seeing guys like, Zach Thomas, all the way to like Noe Benogany, then, Paul Tyson and all of them do really good. Definitely made me want to, to come up, in the future and be really good too.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Peyton, you're definitely putting your name in that category with those guys. Looking forward to seeing where the rest of the season goes for you. Congrats on the win Friday. Hopefully there's more to come. But thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now we've got Hewitt-Trussville head coach Josh Floyd with us. Coach Floyd, big win on Friday night. Just, start off telling us how big that was for your guys, for your team, for the program, just to go over there and get that victory in that fashion.
Well, it's definitely a big win for us. At the end of the day, it's one win this year. Obviously, that's all you get credit for is one. But I think it was just a big deal for our team to be able to go over there. I mean, the Hoover Met is always. It's a fun place, but it's just kind of a weird environment. It's kind of different, a little bit unique, and so I wouldn't say it's an easy place to play. And so our guys stepped up. As obviously it was a tough ball game. It was a good physical ball game. Defense did a heck of a job. But it's definitely big. I mean, anytime you beat Hoover, it's good for your team and your program. Because just say that out of respect to them for what they've done the past 25, 30 years. They've just been obviously so good. So anytime you can get a victory over them, it's a big deal for you.
You mentioned the defense. Just kind of expand on them for me. So what you've seen really the last 3 weeks. I mean, a touchdown a game. They seem really locked in right now.
Yeah, they've done a great job. And we feel like going into the season, we had a chance to be good defensively. Our first ball game, we didn't play great. And part of that's because Central was so good on offense. I mean, they have, as good a receiving core as I've ever seen, probably. We gave up the thing that we did early on the season, even the first 2 games, we gave up some big plays but a lot of them were correctable things. A breakdown here, breakdown there, and so we had some young guys we had to count on. I mean, there are 2 guys that left the defense last year and went to the SEC. Ricky Gibson and Hunter Osborne, and so we knew you're replacing some of those guys. But we ended up, I think we ended up probably 4 or 5 guys coming back that were starters. But we had some young guys out there. We've got a couple sophomores starting over there. But they stayed the course. They didn't, everybody didn't go crazy and freak out after the first game or two. Guys just, they did what they were supposed to do. Give Coach Talsman, defense coaches credit. They've done a great job. And, we obviously made adjustments like we do every year. I think it wasn't fun that night completely, that first game, but I think that's why you play a big time team like that too. I mean, I think, you get things exposed early on, and then you try to fix it.
Yeah. When you're going into a place like the Met where this program is, like you said, you've lost some heartbreakers there and to Hoover in general. How much of the preparation is mental with those guys, getting them to believe that, you feel like you can win this ball game?
Well, I think there's always a mental side to every game, obviously. Our kids, I don't think there's some mental block that they don't think they could beat Hoover. I think they've, I think because we've just happened to, we hadn't done it the last few years, and again, it just happens that we've lost some tough ones. They've beaten us 2 times the last few years by 1 point. One of those was in overtime that ended the season. And so, it's more just, you had some heartbreakers. And so our guys just, they wanted to have the attitude no matter what happened. It doesn't matter. You just got to find a way to win. And again, our stats were okay the other night offensively. Now, part of that, we had a short field, thankfully, because our defense was playing so well, and we started at midfield probably 3 or 4 times. But I wouldn't say we executed perfectly on offense by any means, but we found a way to get the job done. So, I think just at the end of the day, it's one game, and that's what we had to tell our kids this week. We're fired up about it. It's good, but we don't get credit for more than one win. So, we have to keep getting better no matter who we're playing.
Do you think this week, like, I guess 2-part question kind of thing. One, how do you approach a homecoming non-region week? Just keeping the guys locked in, and will you be going to a certain game Thursday night?
Well, I heard there's one on TV, so but we do have a middle school game Thursday. So, my youngest son, he's a 7th grader. So, yeah, I think the homecoming week's always interesting. I try not to fight it completely. You want the kids to have a good time. They're going to be doing, some things sometimes late at night. I just try to tell them to make sure we're making good choices. It's always, people rolling houses. My house got rolled last year, I remember. So, just kind of one of those things that happens during homecoming week. But there's still a football game on Friday night, and that's what I always tell our guys every year. If there's no game, there's no homecoming, guys. So, one thing I challenge them with too is, there's people that come back, and that's the only game they come to the whole year. Just because it's homecoming, you'll have some alumni here that, for whatever reason, maybe they don't live here, or maybe this is the only game they care about coming to all year. And so, you have one chance to put on a show for some of these people of, the alumni of our school, whether they played football or didn't play football or whatever. So, you only get to play this thing so many times. You're only guaranteed so many games. So, our guys will be ready. No matter what. As far as it being a non-region game, it doesn't really change a whole lot for us. We're obviously trying to win the game and all that. It's just, we're just trying to get guys better every week.
Speaking of that game, we all know that Huffman's struggling a little bit this year, but their new head coach, you know him pretty well.
Yes.
Give me a story about Coach Bivins that would make people over in that community excited to have him leading that program. What's he done well?
Rodney's a great guy. First of all, I loved having him on our staff. I think he was here for 3 years. He's part of a couple of region championships when he was here. First of all, he's a dang good ball coach. He knows the game. Obviously played quarterback. His dad's a coach, college coach. Rodney played QB in college, and so obviously knows the game really, really well. He's a very, very bright offensive mind. Coached running backs and receivers for us at different times, and so he left a few years ago for us and ended up being a coordinator. And he got a head coaching job. So it's always fun when guys from your staff are able to go on and do some good things and get those opportunities. And so, but the best thing about Rodney, he's a great Christian dude that really cares about kids. I'd say that's the best thing about him. He's a guy that's going to take his guys to different events and different things. He understands it's about more than just football. And if it's me, I mean, I'd love for my sons to be coached by a guy like Rodney because again, he's a ball coach. He knows the game, but he's also genuinely cares about kids and really pours into their lives. So I know they're having a struggle this year. I talked to him before the season. He knew it was going to be a little bit tough. I think they've got a lot of young guys that they're having to rely on right now. And that's tough, man. It's tough in 6A and 7A football when you're having to play a bunch of young kids. It's just tough. There's no way around it. No excuses. It is what it is. So I think, they just need to hang in there with them. And I think he'll get them going over the next few years.
Yeah. Yeah, Coach, I was listening to Hugh Freeze talk the other day, and he mentioned how he breaks the season up into certain segments. Big picture, how do you approach a season? Like, do you break it up into first half, second half, into thirds? Like, how do you see it?
I mean, we definitely break it up. Typically, our schedule's been first 2 games are non-region. So, that's, again, we've played different teams over the years. We've played some out-of-state teams. We've done different things there. And so I've just always approached it like the first 2 games, we got to find out who we are. And, we know it's going to be, again, we're usually going to have a tough one. We don't have a whole lot of people lining up to play us anyway. So there's not a whole lot of options. So that in some ways that makes it not too hard to schedule. But I've always looked at that one. That's one segment. We're going to do this, different teams do it different ways in high school, whether it's the open week, like right now this week, some of our regions not playing, probably half of them aren't playing, some of them are. And then you take the last week off heading into the playoffs. So, you got to make the playoffs first of all. But if you do make the playoffs, I've enjoyed having that last week off and being able to play this week. Versus Huffman this week. I mean, I think it's been good for us. We have a span of 3 or 4 weeks here that I think is probably as tough as anybody in the state for sure. I mean, in a matter of 4 weeks, you play Hoover, Thompson, and Vestavia, and it's been that way like 4 years in a row now. Even when we changed the region schedule 2 years ago, all they did was flip. Hoover and Thompson flipped. For some reason, we still played all 3 of them within a month. So, our region's so good top to bottom, but our region's so tough. Honestly, ours, it really is 1 week at a time, and that's not coach speak. I mean, we know every week we have to bring it. Guys are well coached. They're good programs. And we respect all of our opponents, so, but really the main thing for us is just those first 2 weeks, we're trying to find out who we are. And, you want to hopefully win both those games. You're doing that. And we've done that at times, again, we didn't get it done this year, week 1, but I do think we learned a lot from that game about our team.
What you got, Gary?
Does it feel like you've been here 10 years?
Man, not really. Yes and no. I mean, 10 years has gone fast. It's gone really fast. Yeah. So it's pretty hard to believe. I think some people, when I came here, they just assumed I was going to be here a few years and then go coach with Coach Malzahn. That was kind of the thing I got asked about every year.
I got asked about it a lot too.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah. And maybe one of these days, there's been a couple of times I've almost gone with Coach, but I've really enjoyed high school football. This is a great community to be a part of. Obviously, you guys are from here. I mean, it's a great place, and I think our future's bright. I think we've done some great things, and we've been a top 5 program for the last 7 or 8 years very consistently. We're just, again, we want to be number 1 like everybody. So we're not anywhere satisfied with where we can go. We've got some exciting things going right now, just from facility standpoint. We've got a big, pavilion building that's going up right next to us. We got the video board this year, big jumbotron. And so there's some exciting things. Trussville continues to grow, and that's not probably changing. I think it's going to keep doing that. And so I think it's a great time to be here. Obviously, all my kids are in our program. That's kind of the first year we've had that where they're all playing school ball. Peyton, senior, obviously, and then Parker's a sophomore playing defense linebacker for us this year. And then my youngest is a 7th grader, so he's playing on our 7th grade team. So, that's making it fun.
Okay, so on those 3 kids though, so Peyton's obviously going to say himself, which he did. Can I put the same question to you? Which one's the best athlete?
The best athlete? I don't know. They're all pretty unique. I mean, it's kind of like even their personalities. They're all just different. It's crazy. So Peyton's always he's very competitive. Like, I'll say that Peyton might be the most competitive of all of them. Always, he's always been that way. I mean, he hates to lose in anything. You know, him and Parker have fought for years in games, whether it's, you know, Xbox or whether it's basketball out there or ping pong or whatever it may be. I mean, they've fought, and then of course my little man Jack. I mean, he's probably the toughest of all of them. You know, just because he's been the little guy for so long. You know, it's funny. You can tell it's really funny watching it in youth league sports. Like, you can tell the ones that are the youngest brothers and have older siblings, because they're usually a little more aggressive, usually a little bit tougher. And even if they're not the best athletes, you can tell, like, how this guy's he's been through the ringer with some brothers. So Parker's having a great year for us. So, you know, at linebacker, I mean, right now he's our leading tackler, he's done a great job for that. Which, you know, we didn't know how it was going to go. We had a need. Parker's played quarterback some in the past, but he's always loved defense. Loved D line. In the youth league, he played D line and loved it. So he's, you know, I think he likes quarterback as well, but I think he's really enjoyed playing defense a lot, and you know, he's done a really good job for us too.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Coach, one more thing for me. How much room do you feel like this team has left to grow? I mean, are you close to the top of where you think this team can be, or do you see that there's a long way that you can still go?
I think there's a lot of things the other night that we didn't do well. We had a lot of pre-snap penalties, which, you know, that's our fault. There's no excuse for that. And I think offensively, that was one thing that hurt us early on in the first quarter and a half. We kept having some stupid penalties, man. You get behind the chains against a team like Hoover on defense. I mean, Hoover's really good on defense. I mean, they still have dudes at every level of their defense. They've got big time players. And so you get, you know, those kind of things, you know, defensively. We had a few offside, even on special teams, we had a few mistakes that I didn't think we hadn't been doing that this year from that standpoint on special teams. So, you know, the key is trying to put it all together in one game. You know, I think there's been times where we're really good offensively. There's been times we've been really good defensively. And we've been pretty good on special teams most of the year. But again, there are a couple of penalties there tonight that, again, if that game comes down to the last play, that's could have cost us the game. And so I think the challenge is trying to get it all perfect that night. And that's obviously easier said than done. If we all knew exactly the magic words to make that happen, then we'd do it. But so yeah, there's still room to grow. Again, we're still young, some young guys on defense. I mean, we've got, you know, 2 sophomores that start and other sophomores that play. Offensively, that was fun the other night. We had probably 5 or 6 sophomores just make plays that were pivotal points in the game, and guys that were in the heat of the moment that, you know, it's pretty awesome for them, their first time to go play at the Met and respond the way they did. Because, I mean, again, if you can go play in a big game like that, then you can play against anybody. So there's definitely still room for improvement there. Even at receiver, you know, we had, you know, Dylan Cope has really stepped up. Talking about a sophomore. Jacob Serena and Jaden Loving were guys that played last year and got the ball a lot. But Dylan's done a really nice job there. So we've been really proud of him. And you know, there's a few others guys just making plays.
Awesome. Well, the Huskies are in the thick of it still. A few more games, a few big region games to go down the stretch of the season. Coach Floyd will be following you guys along. Congrats on the win over Hoover, and hope there's a few more celebrations coming up down the stretch.
Hope so, man. Appreciate you guys doing this and everything y'all do for high school football, man. Makes it fun for the kids. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. That's Coach Josh Floyd of the Hewitt-Trussville Huskies. Good stuff from those guys. Really looking forward to seeing if Hewitt-Trussville could sustain this momentum and really make something special happen this fall. But Gary, let's finish recapping some other things that we saw last Friday night. The game you were at. John Carroll gets to 5-0. Still can't believe I'm saying that. It's awesome. They beat Carver 43-26. Another region win for the Cavs. They were honoring some 50th anniversary state championship teams. You were there. Tell us about the night.
It was kind of a weird night in a way, like just kind of some clashing styles. John Carroll didn't necessarily have their best, really offensively or defensively. I mean, they put up 43 points. They did get a special team score to start the game on a Carver snap over the punter's head that they recovered in the end zone. But just not very sharp. There was a lot of penalties on both teams. It's probably why you were halfway done writing your gamer while I was halfway through the fourth quarter. So just kind of a weird game. John Carroll ran the ball at will. I think 350 or so rushing yards, and Carver threw the ball at will. They threw the ball for more than 400 yards. So I know they're not our coverage area, but I want to hey, quick shout out Carver quarterback DJ Wade and these wide receiver athlete / running back guys, to Marcus Threat and Steve Sigler. They were dynamic and they did it all, and they were fast and they were shifty, and they were pretty much the whole offense. And that's 400 yards of just passing offense. So shout out to those guys. They were really good. On the other side of that, John Carroll, I think I talked about this maybe after the Fairfield game that you went to, that bend but don't break. A lot seemed to break defensively at times Friday night. So John Carroll defensively, you've really got to keep guys in front of you and really lock in that way. But it's tough. They've got guys playing both ways. A game like that's high scoring, big plays back and forth, it's going to be easy to get gassed. Carson McFadden, the quarterback at John Carroll, who we talk about, just great dual threat quarterback. He played on defense too. He came away with an interception to end the first half. And then Karan Wright, he rushes for 2 touchdowns in the second half and recovers a fumble on defense. So they've got guys going both ways. It's an inspiring team in that way. They just do what they need to do to get the job done. And it's just continues to be impressive regardless of how they played Friday night. They shot themselves in the foot in a lot of ways, but they still win a region game by 17 points. So you can't really complain. You can just find things to work on in this off week for them this week before they step back into 5A Region 5 play against Pleasant Grove and Ramsey. So they're going to need to get back to those fundamentals. Coach Wilmara talked about that with me post game about we're really going to focus on recovery and fundamentals, going back to, pulling some of the study tips from spring and really honing in on those fundamentals and playing sound football in all phases. So, maybe not their absolute best that they've played so far, but it's another in the win column. So you can't really complain.
Yeah, can't complain about a win. It's a lot easier to hone in on things after a win, and the Cavs get a bye week before getting back into it. Staying in that little area, Homewood goes on the road and dominates Benjamin Russell 41-21. Gary, you wrote this one up for us. But wow, the Patriots, I did not expect this, and they went down there and just thoroughly handled the Wildcats.
Yeah, that's what I had in my notes, is this was the most surprising game from our coverage area, I thought, Friday. I wasn't necessarily surprised that Homewood won. It was just the fashion in which they won. Back-to-back 20-point road wins in region. They're growing up before our eyes. Yeah. Coach Ben Bergeson talked to you about that early in the season about, they graduated every point they scored last year, every touchdown they scored. And now they're putting up, 43 points, 41 points in region on the road. And they look to be quite a factor in 6A Region 3. Helena seems to be kind of the class there. But, Homewood, they've really got a shot. Them and Briarwood have really got a shot to maybe face off for potentially that second spot out of that region and host in the first round. So just another impressive performance. Quarterback Will Myers seems to be coming into his own. Evan Osmer, the rest of those Patriots, they're growing up really quick now, and that explosiveness is really fun to see. So we'll see if they can keep it going.
Yeah, I agree with you. They are growing up, and they're getting a lot better in the process. Let's take a step. Let's go back into 7A Region 3 stuff. Vestavia Hills hosts Spain Park. The Rebels get the win 26-8. This is the game that I think head coach Robert Evans has been waiting on when it comes to Jordan Ross just completely wrecking a game. The Tennessee commit, he's not hard to spot on the field. He's bigger than everybody else. He's way more athletic than everybody else. And he gets 5 sacks, I think like some 13 tackles, just a huge game from him. And the Rebels get it done on the ground offensively. John Paul Head and William Tonsmeyer both go over 100 yards. And even with the 26-8 score, people were talking after the game just how impressive Spain Park looks as well. This is a team, both coaches, Evan said it after the game as well. Like the Spain Park team is so much better than they were at this time last year. They just continue to build, and they're a little banged up right now. But I mean, both sides of this, Rebels, Jaguars, very impressive to me on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play an ugly game, and I think Coach Evans talked about it being a bit of an ugly game, I want Jordan Ross on my team if the game's going to be ugly, because he's going to make it ugly for the opponent, and he did. And then the offense does enough to get it done, and it's kind of like how we kind of talked about Hewitt-Trussville. I keep seeing these similarities where preseason, early season, we talked about the Vestavia offense, the Hewitt offense, the guys they return, the explosiveness, and then on the other side, young defenses, and can they do enough to keep them in games? Well, both Hewitt-Trussville and Vestavia Hills this past week didn't necessarily put it all together offensively, 28 points, 26 points. But the defenses, I mean, Hewitt holds Hoover to 7, Vestavia holds Spain Park to 8. They seem like they're really coming into their own defensively, both those teams, but Vestavia especially, just playing really, really well. And, Thompson aside, those two teams seem like they're on a collision course for something big in mid-October. And we'll get to that when the time comes. And for Spain Park, it's like just you can see the difference in production from the first couple games to when they've dealt with some of these injuries, and it seems like it's affected them in a big way. You can't make excuses, and I know Coach Tim Vakakis won't. But it does seem like that's affected them a little bit. Being able to do some of the things they want to do, and just tough to fall to 0-3 in the region, and hopefully they can find some health and get back on the right track, and maybe throw their hat in the ring here down the stretch.
Yeah, I would like to see a fully healthy Spain Park at some point this year and see if they can make any more noise. Another Region 3 game that just, oh man, Tuscaloosa County beats Oak Mountain 24-23. Oak Mountain scores with like 1:35 to go. They get the onside kick, and they go right down the field and score again. But instead of settling for overtime and the tie, Coach Shane McComb says, look, we're going for it. We're trying to win this game. The 2-point try is no good, and the Eagles fall. But what a comeback. I mean, Will Odell gets two touchdowns there late, and they just come up short. But this is a T County team that is not on a pushover by any stretch. So really impressive for the Eagles to kind of hang around in this game and then be able to make some noise at the end. And you're a play away from winning this one.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear the cliche when a coach makes that decision at any level, high school, college, pro, the hero or the GOAT kind of thing. But I kind of love it. I mean, just something a little different, not necessarily just playing safe, playing for overtime. Like he saw an offense that, had made that comeback, was going right down the field, and it's what was working. And you went with what was working, and, you go for the win. I like it. They were, 0-2 in the region. They needed a win. They were trying to put that thing to bed right there. And it just, it just came up short. But Oak Mountain, they're so young in so many places that I still think this is going to be a team over the next few years that you're going to go, not unlike Spain Park this year, where, year 1 to year 2, or, in a couple of years, whatever it might be, where you're going, wow, that program is really improved. And I think Oak Mountain's going to be that team. will it be enough this year? Probably not. 0-3 in the region like Spain Park, but they've been right there. That loss to Hewitt-Trussville aside, where they lost 42-7, their other three losses have been by a combined 12 points. I mean, they're that close, right there in games. So, and they're just so young, and to be there that close in those games, I think I think that's a team you can't look at their record and just be like, oh, they're 1-4 and 0-3 in the region. They're not very good. I don't think you can say that at all about Oak Mountain. I think they've just had they've got some inexperience, and they're building that, and they've been super close in several games. So I think good things are on the horizon for that program.
Few more scores. Mountain Brook beats Jackson Olin 49-0. That's the Spartans' third straight shutout to start region play, but it will get far more difficult in the second half of the year for them. Thompson beats Chelsea 45-0. Let's be honest, like that's not a fair fight for the Hornets right now. And then Clay-Chalkville beats Center Point 39-14. The Cougars keep on rolling. That's all we had from week 5. Let's get right into week 6. This is the non-region week, so we got a handful of teams taking it at open date. But we do have some big games on the slate, including the first game Thursday night. I hear this is a nationally televised game. This will be at Warrior Stadium. Clay-Chalkville, number 2 in 6A, paying a visit to 7A number 1 Thompson. Gary, I think the story of this game is the first 1 to 10 wins, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, I thought Vestavia Thompson was going to be a shootout, and it was 21-3. I don't know, and I think that's the intrigue and the fun about a game like this. I wish it was at Cougar Stadium. I know it's back at Thompson, but or even at a neutral site. That would be fun. Play this thing in Protective or something like that. But I mean, can Clay-Chalkville is one of, if not the most athletic team at the skill positions in 6A.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at their ability to run. I think all of their points at Center Point the other night came off of the run, I believe. Thompson's defense is so fast. They're fast in the secondary. They're fast up front. I've talked to several coaches talking about, no, they don't have a Jeremiah Alexander this year. No, they don't have a Peter Woods anymore who can just blow up an offensive line. But they say they're so fast, just so fast. Like when their linebackers are as fast as your running backs, it's tough to move the ball anywhere. So I'm looking for that matchup of athleticism and which one wins out Thursday. Can Jalen Mbakwe, if he's forced to throw the ball, can he throw the ball on that Thompson defense? And can that Clay-Chalkville defense that's been so good, slow down a Thompson offense? So there's a lot of fun little matchups within the game kind of thing, and there's a reason a game like this is on national television, and I think it'll be a lot of fun for a non-region week.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of those same questions. I think one of the questions that I have, Clay-Chalkville's defense has been so impressive early on, but at the same time, I don't know that they've played very many offenses that can legitimately give them a great challenge. But Thompson's will definitely do that. So this will be a real test, really get a gauge on how good Clay's defense is. And then the other question I have is, how much, last year, I mean, Clay made this, it was a 3-point game.
Yeah.
They pushed all their chips in and tried to win this game. I just wonder with with Mbakwe at quarterback, how much do they push? Do they, a coach would never admit this, but how much do they really push everything in and try to win the game when, look, this game isn't going to do anything for you in standings. It's not going to help you win a 6A state championship. Now, granted, if you're able to win this game on national TV, that's a huge deal for your program. But we'll see. I mean, I don't think Thompson is going to run away with this game by any stretch. I mean, Clay-Chalkville is certainly good enough to compete with this team. So we'll see. I'm really interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to come down to like who can keep who off the field, like kind of a time of possession type game where, if you won the time of possession and capitalized when you needed to, I feel like that's your winner.
This has definitely got key turnover, big defensive touchdown, kind of wins the game in the
Yeah.
second half type of game. That's what it feels like.
It does.
So if you can't make it to Warrior Stadium, this game will be Thursday night, ESPN2. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get a few more games. Oak Mountain paying a visit to Briarwood. Gary, you will be out there for this one. These teams, the schools are a couple miles apart. These kids know each other really well. There's a reason that these schools have only played about 5 times in the 25 years that they've both been in existence together. So this is one of those where these guys know each other really well, and you just hope that it stays a fun rivalry game as opposed to delving into anything else.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, you kind of already touched on it, but isn't it nice to see a non-region game where a Class 7A team and a Class 6A team along the same stretch of highway play each other? I'll leave it at that. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like both these teams lately, at least to me, you've seen Briarwood more recently than I have, and I haven't seen Oak Mountain since that Hewitt-Trussville game, and it seems like they've made a lot of improvement since then. It seems like both these defenses are playing pretty well right now. So this one to me has almost the makings of a kind of like what you saw with Briarwood Pelham, like maybe first 1 to 24, maybe 28 kind of game. I think it's going to be competitive. Does Briarwood have enough depth against a 7A, school in Oak Mountain? Can Oak Mountain come in and right the ship and win against they're a smaller school, but what is a quality opponent? So I think I'm in for a competitive game. And I'm just looking forward to that. And if Briarwood can get the job done, I think this is would be win number 400 in program history. So they're going for a big number there too this Friday, and you could do that at home against a team down the street. I think it might be homecoming maybe at Briarwood. So there will be a lot of hoopla around Lions Pride Stadium Friday. So looking forward to just being in the middle of it all.
Yeah, should be a good one. Another game that has the potential to have some intrigue. Mountain Brook paying a visit to Hoover. This is a game that these two teams have been region foes for years and years and years until recently when Mountain Brook falling back to 6A, Hoover's remained a really dominant 7A team. And there's been a gap in the talent for these two programs. Mountain Brook has not beaten Hoover since 2011. And even when they've played the last couple of years, you just know, like, Mountain Brook has gone into this game. It's like, look, let's compete, let's play hard, let's work on some things, but let's not go crazy and get anybody hurt. However, does the Mountain Brook coaching staff sense an opportunity here? Because with the trajectories of both of these teams' seasons so far, Mountain Brook should go into this game feeling like they have a legitimate chance to compete.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of, I was trying to think about this. Like, I know there are some people out there who put out odds for high school football games. I personally find that a little bit weird. It's not college, it's not the pros, it's high school football, and there's a lot more there are a lot more variables. You won't find me betting on it, but with the exception of maybe the Thompson Clay game, is there the potential that both of the 6A or all of these 6A teams that are playing the 7A teams this week would be favored? I mean, Briarwood, Oak Mountain, Mountain Brook at Hoover. You've got Chelsea at Pelham. Like, I mean, Huffman's not going to be favored at Hewitt, but it seems like it seems like a potentially a big week for 6A teams against some bigger schools. But yeah, I mean, you kind of said it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. If that Mountain Brook defense is for real, against a Hoover offense that we've said has been struggling. On the other side, can Hoover find some things in a non-region week in a game that doesn't count for the standings? Can they find some things, find some guys that are really going to help them in that back half of the region schedule, and see if they can, find some points somewhere, shake things up a little bit. So I think, we find a lot of our intrigue in the region games and playoff scenarios and all that. But I think there's a lot of intrigue surrounding that game this week for sure.
Sure. And this is let's talk about a 6A on 6A game. Homewood paying a visit to Pinson Valley. These two teams met in the playoffs in 2018 and 2019, with Pinson winning both of those pretty handily. And then Pinson got Homewood by 8 points last year. Ben Bergeson, Homewood's head coach, that one still eats at him, the one from last year. He feels like his team should have won. And
I was there.
Do what?
I was there.
Oh, yeah. So Bergeson he's told me before the season, he's like, we want to win this game, man. Like, we want to beat Pinson Valley, get that kind of the monkey off our back. So don't expect anything different from Homewood except going for a win here. There's no resting guys. Like, they want to win this game because this is an opponent that's been really tough for them in recent years.
Yeah, and in non-region weeks, a lot of times we do see a lot of teams rest guys, or they'll play a half and that kind of thing. But Homewood doesn't necessarily have the experience. Like most of these guys, this is their fifth, sixth game, really. Yeah. So they should play at full strength just because they're still so young. It is an opportunity to again play on the road. Pinson Valley's a little down this year. So I don't really know what to expect because I haven't seen Pinson Valley. I haven't seen Homewood in person yet, but it does have that kind of feel of maybe a little bit of payback on the road. So it'll be interesting to see.
One of Gary's 7A versus 6A games, Chelsea paying a visit to Pelham. Chelsea head coach Todd Cassidy made an interesting comment after the game against Thompson last week. I mean, Chelsea couldn't do anything against him. And even though they're region opponents, after the game, Cassidy said something to the effect of, I'm looking forward to playing a team that is where we belong. I think with the reclassification that'll come up next year, I think Chelsea will kind of get fitted back into, some schools that are closer on their enrollment and competitive level. And this is one of those teams. Chelsea and Pelham have, these are two teams that I was at the game last year, and Pelham pulled out a close win, but you could tell these are two teams that are pretty evenly matched. So I would expect something similar to that. A little county rivalry. This will be a fun game.
Yeah, I've got nothing really to add to that. I mean, that's pretty much what I thought. It's a one-score game, like you said last year, and I feel like if I was comparing it, it feels maybe a little bit like that Oak Mountain Briarwood game that we just talked about, where just balance, competitive matchup. It crosses classifications, but these teams are closer than you'd really think between a 6A and a 7A team. So I think it'll be a good game.
And then the final game we've got on the schedule, Hewitt-Trussville hosting Huffman. The Huskies get homecoming non-region week. This should be a pretty straightforward game for them. But Gary, this is the non-region week, and I'm going to throw something on you. The last couple minutes of this, I'm throwing 2 minutes on the clock. We can get out all of your frustrations about Alabama or the Braves or anything you want. So since you're still not here to talk about Alabama, this is your chance to air it all out.
Well, I haven't had a chance to update it yet. I mean, the win over Ole Miss was impressive defensively. So hopefully the offense can find its footing. The Braves, I really have no complaints. We're almost to October, so I might have some complaints soon. We'll see. You know what? Bill Plaschke. Did you read the thing about the MVP race and why Mookie Betts should win it unequivocally over Ronald Acuna?
Okay, well, Bill Plaschke hates fun. He hates the Braves.
Yes.
He's
very selective about which stats he uses as his argument.
anybody trying to make an argument that Ronald Acuna Jr. should not be the MVP of the National League this year is an absolute moron, and you should never take them seriously ever again.
Clown.
I mean, when you put together an all-time season that has never been done in Major League history, like Acuna is doing this year, the MVP race is close. And if your sole argument that one guy deserves the MVP over the other is he plays two positions, well, congratulations. I bet Ronald Acuna could play third base if we really needed him to, right? I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
Go away. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. That's the dumbest argument I've heard.
No. And hey,
stuff at that point.
And okay, so that was Alabama and that was the Braves. You mentioned earlier in the Hoover Hewitt-Trussville game about sideline interference. What was Jimbo Fisher doing on the field in the Auburn game Saturday? What was the deal?
If you go back and look at that slow motion we're at 2 minutes. If you go back and look at that play slow motion, Jimbo, there's like the gears in his head seem to be turning of, I need to tackle this dude. And then really quickly goes from, I need to just not move. I'm not here.
I thought of, it made me think of two things. One, it made me think of that episode of Friday Night Lights where the coach tackles the player in the high school game. I don't remember what season or episode, but the coach just tackles a player. And it also, it really gave a lot of credence to Texas A&M's The 12th Man. It really did.
Well, if Auburn's passing offense doesn't get any better, that will be the highlight of the season, is that touchdown return. But that will do it for this episode of Under the Lights. A lot of cool high school football still to come this week, the rest of the season. We'll be at games Thursday and Friday this week. We hope you will follow along. I'm at Kyle Parmley on Twitter. Gary is at Gary A. Lloyd. Stay tuned. We'll be covering it all. Thanks for joining us.